Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breck's Blueprint. I know I say that I'm excited every week, but I'm super excited this month to introduce Nicole Strothman, my legal counsel, also my friend. We've been working together for about 13 years. So, Nicole, I will let you introduce yourself. Give us your background.
Thanks, Breck. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And of course, always a joy working with you. Yeah, I'm a healthcare attorney by background, by training. Probably age myself here, but it's been about 24 years in the healthcare space, a mix of franchising, multi-unit operators, and really my passion is around multi-unit operators that are scaling, particularly across state lines. And I usually like to say that I'm usually coming in when something's working from a revenue standpoint, but the structure underneath hasn't quite caught up yet.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I remember back in the day, like I said, we've been working together a long time before I had my own business. The boss would be like, "Hey, Nicole needs to talk to you," and I'd be like, "Oh, like what happened? What did we do?" Like, and now I'm like, "I got to talk to Nicole. I got to talk to Nicole. I got to."
Oh,
No, like, she is going to be your best friend and is incredibly knowledgeable about all things that you need, not only to start your own med spa, but to make sure you're being compliant and taking care of your patients in the right way. And so, one thing you've got to think about before you ever even start providing healthcare services is an MSO PC relationship, right? So I had no clue what that was. So if you guys don't know what that is, that's fine. But it's incredibly important. So Nicole, can you give us just like a quick rundown of kind of that relationship and why that's important when you're building your med spa?
yeah, and I think it's something that is really dismissed because of that. It's almost a lack of knowledge, right? And you kind of think, hey, I'm great. I'm educated. I'm Breck. I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, why do I need to have a doctor involved in my practice? Like, I may know more than them, or
Mhm.
whatever it may be. So really, and that's probably the biggest gap. And I don't think it's bad intent, obviously. It's just that the operators are building their businesses faster, and a lot of the times faster than the regulatory frameworks are catching up. Especially now, with a lot of these healthcare companies that are growing and scaling so quickly. A lot of these PC MSO rules have been on the books since like 1920s,
Oh,
1930s.
wow. Okay.
So if you can imagine healthcare back then, it has dramatically changed.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank
so
goodness.
yeah, right. And so what it was really put in place for was to make sure that the practice of medicine was preserved. And what I mean by that is that they didn't want companies and corporations coming in and influencing the medical judgment of medical providers. And so way back in the day, before there was big hospital chains and multi-unit chains and all sorts of other revenue models in healthcare, these laws were put into place. And then over time, some have been repealed, some have been modified, and then some have been strengthened. If you think about California, North Carolina, New York, Illinois, you tend to see a lot of enforcement in those states around the practice of medicine. And so how they kind of monitor making sure that that clinical judgment is preserved in their bubble is really stating that the medical provider, typically a physician, sometimes a physician assistant, sometimes a
Right.
nurse practitioner, sometimes a registered nurse, can actually own the practice. So they want to make sure that, essentially the PC side, which is, professional corporation or PLLC, is owned by a provider that's practicing medicine, making the clinical decisions. And then the MSO basically does everything else. They're the back office engine, doing the marketing, the branding, the staff operations, getting the lease, equipment, things like that. But really kind of preserving that separation almost of church and state, of making sure that that PC really is not being interfered with by the general business folks.
Right. And it makes total sense. You know, when you think about it, we don't want business people that are just trying to drive revenue to dictate what we do as medical professionals, right? And medical providers. And so really trying to retain the medical knowledge and the medical decisions with the actual medical professionals. So it is a little bit of pain in some states, and it's not always a lot of fun, but it makes total sense. And that's a way that we've set our business up to make sure that we're compliant and we're doing things correctly. Thanks to Nicole and her team. We got that squared away. And so that's a big topic. And then one thing that I hear all the time is pharmacies and where you're sourcing your ingredients from and active pharmaceutical ingredients and 501A versus 503B, right? You know, like, or 501B. What's the difference, you know, between an A and a B pharmacy?
Yeah, so really it comes down to patient specific versus bulk supply. So the 503A is going to be patient specific, and then your B is going to be bulk supply. So for the bulk supply, just imagining like you're buying in bulk, you're holding that inventory, and then you're assigning to patients later. With that, you would have patient evaluation, prescription, fulfillment, and this kind of can include really any compounding. It got a lot of attention, of course, during the GLP-1 movement. That just, really has expanded in the last couple of years. And then, of course, there was a lot more attention as the shortages became less. And both, the FDA approved versions of those GLP-1s became more available on the market. So that restricted a lot of the bulk purchasing and really made it down to the patient specific in the GLP-1 market based on medical necessity. There's still other types of compounding that's available in bulk, depending on what that may be, what's offered by the clinic. But pretty much the one that everybody knows about is the GLP-1.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we do almost exclusively 503A, except like our IV therapy. You know, we'll buy our mixes and stuff like that in bulk without an issue. We use only registered and very, very good pharmacies. We were just talking earlier, Nicole and I, about peptides and not for human consumption and research only purposes and all the stuff with the FDA and where they're sourcing their ingredients from. So can you touch on that a little bit? Because I know that's a huge topic right now.
Yeah, and I think it's growing, right? I mean, there's so much now in the wellness, anti-aging markets. We now have the FDA very intensely looking at peptides just broadly.
Mhm.
I think that is probably one thing that the GLP-1 market brought to light is there's all these other formularies that exist that are really good for people. But if it says research only, that should not be inside of a person. Like that should
Right.
be done in a lab,
Right.
right? Like, I mean, let's be honest. So, if it says research only, that's really what it is. It's just for research, and that should be done in a lab, and not on live humans, in, a normal medical spa or similar environment.
Yeah, absolutely. We do not utilize those products. Our compounding pharmacies send us all their purities. All the active pharmaceutical ingredients are sourced in the US. Never have issues with sterility or anything with that. That is important, guys. I know you can go online and you can Google it, and Nicole or I, either one, could have a peptide delivered tomorrow without ever
Yes.
meeting with with a medical professional, right? So there are contraindications to these peptides. There is a reason why you should be meeting with a medical professional and making sure that you're getting a good, pure product. And then also, we touched on this a couple months ago, guys. Make sure your malpractice covers you for peptides. We went into detail about that. A lot of policies will not cover peptides. So that is very good. And then so much around marketing and how to market your services the right way and the legal way and making sure that we're not stepping on any toes and no false advertisement. So can you talk a little bit about marketing and maybe how, you know, a legit script certification, something like that might be handy for med spas that are wanting to really push their marketing?
Yeah, marketing, it's actually one of my favorite topics, I think, in healthcare, because I think it can be so misused, misunderstood, but so helpful if done in the right way.
Hmm.
And that can be everything from making sure that the ads are not overpromising, right? That you're not saying you're going to lose 5,000 pounds by next, month. And,
Right.
the FDA has come out and the FTC has come out, mainly the FTC has come out and said like what legal advertising is around health claims. They've got a lot of great materials, but they have, essentially a formula that they even use for weight loss claims. And so a lot of that's really, you can look at what they're saying and what they're enforcing, to be able to make the healthcare claims. I've created for a couple of different groups, a chat GPT model that reviews advertising and, it links
Uh-huh.
live into some of those FTC sites, which, people love to just play around with. Marketing folks love it because it can get their ads out faster than, working through some of the legal reviews. But I think it's important from, how are you positioning yourself from like a prescribing standpoint? How are you even positioning yourself for like who owns the clinic, right? Going back to that
Right.
PCMSO model, a lot of folks, kind of step on their own toes by saying they're the owner of the practice when they're not. Like, there's a doctor. Don't forget that,
Right.
in some of these marketing claims. And then, I think, you touched on legit script. I kind of see there's kind of two pieces of legit scripts. There's what is a legit script, and then there's legit scripts, right?
Right.
So,
Yes. Play
it's
on words
like,
there.
yeah. But really looking for, legit scripts. They do, I think, a great job. They're a player in the market that can really help from a compliance standpoint, review materials, the marketing, the website, the way in which the telehealth providers are making the flow of information. And they essentially give kind of, their stamp of approval, for a fee, of course. And so, that can be helpful, but it's also, it can help some people sleep at night, knowing, that they've had an extra third party review, of what their materials look like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know just kind of from experience, Google's been honestly a nightmare for us. And so we do ads somewhat on Facebook and Instagram and almost always try to just be educational. Like how can we help you? Because that's what we want to be. Whether you purchase anything from us or not, we want to be your source for knowledge and for power and to educate you on what your options are. And that's why we always offer complimentary consultations and we don't charge for visits with us because we know if we can help you somehow, you're gonna come back to us for one reason or another, right? So that's always helpful. Nicole, any other big topics that are coming out right now? Anything that you think might be relevant for med spa owners or patients to know about the legality of what we're surrounded with every single day right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's make sure that that there's credibility in who you're going to see, so of course like yourself,
We try.
and um, but there, this space is moving so quickly. I've never seen anything like it. Really in the last 2 years, it's been a bit of a whiplash environment, and I think really staying involved in what's happening. There's movement from state pharmacy boards that have been asleep at the wheel for decades, and now all of a sudden, they are coming out from the woodwork with fierce fire and and a lot of enforcement. So just because something wasn't working yesterday. Or was working yesterday doesn't mean it's still going to work tomorrow. And that, if your business isn't compliant, and you haven't been caught yet necessarily, that doesn't mean much, right? So like
Right.
there's still a lot of opportunity for some of these boards, to do investigations. So I do think it's important to be, with folks that are doing things the right way. Um, and then, I mean, going back to really the pace in which this, industry is moving, the peptide therapy is just huge right now. And, everybody's a little bit on pins and needles waiting from
Yeah.
the FDA, which is expected, I think, in the next, week or two,
Hmm.
about a whole release of
Fun.
peptides that, they're going to be opening up, outside of research purposes, which should be great. And so I think there's going to be, a very interesting not only treatment protocol, that medical providers are going to be doing, but also that consumers need to be aware of, and like how can that impact their overall health and well-being. So that's an exciting time.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's difficult sometimes to keep up with it. As a business owner, I'm trying to take care of my patients, I'm trying to do revenue, and I'm trying to do cost of goods. You have to have a good lawyer and you have to have someone that you trust. I cannot recommend Nicole more. Like, she has just been a lifesaver for me and my business. You helped me even have this possible in the first place. So, guys, Venture Legal Advisors, please look her up. I'd say no job is too small or too large. She's got a team she can get you taken care of. And so, very intelligent, strong, driven woman. And I'm happy to have you on my team.
Oh, well, you're amazing. You make it easy. So,
Oh,
I
I
mean,
try. I
yeah.
try. I'll be like,
You just
Nicole,
want to
I
do
think I
you want
messed
to do
up.
things right. Yeah.
Nicole, I'm trying to fix this. Can you help me? Like, I think I did this
Yeah.
wrong. Hey, we're adding four more states and we want to do it tomorrow. Can you help us? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
That's
always
better
there
than
for it.
oopsie. Like
Yeah.
I got a
Like,
call from somebody I shouldn't have gotten a call from. How do I get out of it? Yeah.
yeah, I gotta fix this. So she's on my speed dial. Highly recommend it. You're always just a vast knowledge, and I really really appreciate how you stay on top of everything, not only for your own business, but just to make sure you're protecting us, and we really really appreciate that. So. I hopefully we can have you on again soon because I feel like you and I could talk about these topics all day.
We could. Yes.
We could. There's
Yeah.
so many
Well,
things.
maybe we'll have to have a peptide one next
I
after
know, let's do it. Like
after some
right,
news here. Yeah.
right after the new stuff comes out. We probably could give you advice every month, but really, really appreciate it. Thank you for being on the call, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you need Nicole's contact, reach out to me, look her up, and we'll get you taken care of. So, thanks again, Nicole.
Thanks, Breck. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.